What makes someone an English Quebec poet, as opposed to, say, a Canadian poet, a North American poet, a Japanese Canadian poet? Discussion of Anglo-Quebec poetry activities is mediated even further by issues surrounding the status of English speakers in Quebec, and consequently raises questions about the relative usefulness of the idea of a minority culture in this context. Just what does minority mean when one can speak of the Francophone minority in English Canada, as well as the Anglophone minority in French Quebec, and Indigenous communities across such national boundaries? What is minor and what is major, what marginal and what central in a 21st century context that has us wirelessly connected and mobile, mediated across great divides at breakneck speed? In the mid-1950s, Louis Dudek could write with confidence about the dominant role of Montreal as a center of activity and a source of new poetry in Canada. By the early 1970s, most Anglo-Quebec poets who ventured to speculate about their relative significance on the national, let alone international stage, were developing theories that underscored the special importance of their place on the cultural margins. Issues that continue to be discussed in debates about the significance of Anglophone writing in Quebec include: 1, the physical circumscription of Anglophones in Quebec and its relative significance; 2, the strange minority-majority status of English in Quebec; 3, the ethnic multiplicity that may be typical of the Quebec Anglophones' experience; and 4, the historical conditions that have informed and continue to politicize the significance of English in Quebec, and that establish an ongoing dialectic between these two language groups in the province. Is the normative theory that best explains the pluralism of Quebec society one of civic nationalism, multinationalism, multiculturalism, integration nationalism, interculturalism, or some other theory? That is to say, what model do we use to understand the relation between different cultural and linguistic bodies in Quebec society? In Hybridité culturelle, Sherry Simon argues that recent inhabitants of Montreal's Mile End district have consciously capitalized upon an existent sociological heterogeneity in order to live according to a hybrid conception of culture that they value in the abstract as an alternative to the two dominant political modes of discourse, bilingual multiculturalism and French integration nationalism. Most Quebec writers, whether Anglophone or Francophone, bear signs in their work of what she calls l'écriture hybride, a mode of writing marked by the dissonant effects of unrealized translation, unusual syntax, disparate vocabulary, and a general interrogation of naturalizing tropes of linguistic mastery and cultural belonging.